Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where the topic is Agile and Traditional Project Management, Homogeneous or Hybrid. My name is Doug Wellsby, and I'm the Channel Manager here at Wickersoft. I'm also joined by my colleagues Jim Patterson, our Director of Sales, and Matt Willey, our OnePlan Product Specialist. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar question feature to submit questions. I will address these questions during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as I'll be emailing a link to the presentation once it has been posted to our YouTube channel. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the introduction. Thanks, everybody, for spending some time with us and taking some time out of your valuable day. This Agile and Traditional Project Management, Homogeneous or Hybrid, is definitely a topic we get a lot of interest and inquiries about today as the marketplace moves in project and portfolio management. So we'll go over some of the concepts today and some of the things you can do with technologies that are available right now. As we go through this, we're going to talk about the current trends that are driving the needs for these types of solutions. We'll talk about the concept of adaptive project management approaches, and then we're going to spend a good chunk of the time demonstrating live how these things can actually be automated within the technologies we have today in the Microsoft Cloud. And then we'll do some summary and wrap up and have some special offers for you folks that registered for the webinar today. So with that, let's talk about some of the current trends that are driving this. And it really is about the rise in technology and this whole age of digital transformation. You know, things that used to be brick and mortar type of businesses have now become digital businesses and cloud-based businesses that are all software driven, whether it be department stores that have turned into online shopping, whether it's the way we consume media with streaming, whether it's the way we now get transportation via apps as opposed to hailing people down on a street corner. And then even things like our automobiles, and even the way we get soft drinks in fast food restaurants have more computerized methods and devices that we're using. All this means is that companies, to reach their customers, are becoming essentially software companies, no matter what they're delivering as an end product. And that means the way we deliver business to our customers, the way we generate new business opportunities, executives have to strategize different. PMOs are managing a different mix of products and methodologies. And then software development has to deliver on these things, and then we have to support them as organizations. So it actually impacts all parts of our organization as we move through. And that's what's driving this digital transformation age. Now, today's challenges is that organizations are confronted with this, and sometimes, you know, it seems like a daunting task, but these are large initiatives to transform the way we do business. And IT leaders recognize that we need to innovate more and manage uncertainty better and establish more agility, because the pace of change that we're responding to is accelerating all the time. And we must do this while simultaneously running the business in good, fundamental, best practices ways. So executives still have to deliver financial results, and they have to deliver sales results and revenue results. And we have to use these new methods, but dovetail them with what leadership really needs. And then we have all different varying cultures and approaches and attitudes in the organization. We have the needs and the attitudes of the younger generation and the millennial culture, as well as the traditional, traditional methods that have been embraced over the years by older employees. And then just the ideas of the way business should be run are evolving. So adaptive capabilities are becoming necessary and crucial rather than having a one-size-fits-all proposition within organizations. So there's going to be multiple planning and delivery modes in organizations. And the Gartner group has coined the term Adaptive PPM in 2019. And before that, in 2015, there was a more bimodal approach. But at a minimum, there's a dichotomy between traditional mode 1 and mode 2 of traditional PPM type of approaches, which the analogy there is more of kind of a marathon runner with longer cycle times and steady as she goes type of processes and stages and gates and phases. And then there's the more agile approaches where the analogy is more of the sprinter, shorter cycle times, using approaches like agile, lean, or Kanban approaches, and doing things in a more iterative fashion to deliver things. And a lot of organizations we're finding today is that we have to accommodate, or there's a good reason to have both of these instead of leaning one way or the other exclusively. So in these multiple planning and delivery modes, a traditional waterfall is more phased oriented, types of things we do in, say, a Microsoft project plan with sequential stages, a lot of upfront planning, requirements and documentation, contract negotiation, longer term projects, trying to hit with a more of an unchanging target that we're trying to meet at the end. And these tend to still be good for things like construction and infrastructure projects and facilities types of projects and those types of things to manage those things. But there's also an ever increasing number of agile methodologies that are being put into place to do things in more continuous and iterative cycles, more continuous delivery, shorter deliveries into smaller increments, using multiple methodologies and approaches, and having things done in a way that we can deliver more frequently and more consistently, as opposed to a big bang at the end of a long waterfall project. So a lot of organizations have different modes and a call to use different modes in the ways they deliver projects from within their organizations. So organizations are tending to shift more and more towards the left in this model, meaning the more iterative approach, with the more traditional plan requirements and traditional develop in ultimate quality later in the process, as opposed to a shift left model where we're doing shorter cycle times. We're actually planning as we design and build, deliver incrementally, and basically do things in shorter chunks of work and deliverables as we move on through. And companies are moving more and more to that left because the market is demanding it. They want more frequent updates. They want incremental change and not big bang change. And as we get into product development, software development, other things like that, the market forces are just moving so rapidly that we want to deliver while the requirement is still fresh. We don't want to wait so long that by the time we deliver, the requirement maybe has changed or the market dynamic has changed. So organizations by default are shifting more towards the left and using more agile or lean approaches to the way they deliver. So Gartner even said, or the PMI actually found that, agile or waterfall or more traditional approaches aren't necessarily one or better than the other. But smart organizations realize that using agile techniques are not the only or even best indicator of an organization's speed or flexibility. That most organizations are going to have a need to do multiple approaches within their organizations in order to be effective, because different things call for different approaches. And the challenge we've had in organizations today is that traditional PPM, the more governance-driven type of model that is usually embraced by PMOs or have been, to them, agile has been a little bit of a black hole because people are using different agile tools and doing their iterative things, and sometimes they don't have the visibility they would like into what's going on with the agile teams. And then how can they manage a holistic portfolio and provide that to leadership if they don't have good visibility into that? Or how can they manage and apply CapEx and OpEx to those types of projects? On the other hand, the agile teams are saying, hey, governance and PPM and PMO processes are overhead to them. They're slowing us down. They're defeating the purpose of why we go agile in the first place. And at a minimum, just to feed leadership for their PMO reporting and other things like that, sometimes it requires agile teams to do duplicate entry of time entry or status reporting because they're feeding their agile tools as well as the PPM solution as well, and it becomes less than effective or efficient for them to do so. So the key here is, how do we find the right balance? How do we find just enough governance and visibility and insight and alignment and even control over how we're spending and how our investments are going in the organization, with enough agility so that we can innovate, that we can have quicker time to market, and we can be responsive and be very competitive and maybe win our market shares that we're looking to out in the market. So in the new modern PPM spectrum, there's three major pillars that we see. Over on the right, you've got the traditional PPM model that's been around for many decades. And the idea here is that organizations almost exclusively did that in the past, and they used traditional PPM and waterfall types of approaches to making those things happen. On the left, you got the Agile PPM, where people are actually doing, agile transformations, and they have visions of becoming just a fully agile organization where they're doing everything agile, and they're using enterprise-scaled agile methods like SAFe and other things like that. And while that's a great ideal, some organizations may find that it takes them a while to get there from traditional. It may take years to do that. Or even in that transition, they may find out that we'll always have a blend of both traditional and agile. And that's where in the middle, we're finding the bulk of companies are now in this adaptive PPM middle, where we have to manage a combination of agile and waterfall, and maybe even other hybrid variations of that in an organization to actually properly reflect and to effectively deliver all types of work and projects within our organizations. So from an adaptive PPM approach, it really is about, as Gartner describes it, there's all kinds of portfolios of work and other things that go on within an organization. I've just identified 4 here. There's a project portfolio, there's a program portfolio, there's an IT service portfolio, there's product portfolios, there's application portfolios, there's all kinds of portfolios being managed that all generate and spawn off work and require investment and the leveraging of resources within organizations. The key is, how do we provide transparency into that, provide a single source of truth, and allow teams the flexibility to use the tools and methods that are most conducive to the type of work that they're doing. So if we introduce adaptive PPM, PPM has to do certain things as we see across the top. Demand and intake management, ideation, portfolio analytics and analysis and optimizing portfolios. You got to manage your resources, you got to manage the financials. Many have to do time reporting so they can capture labor and do things for like CapEx and OpEx reconciliation, and even the reporting and business intelligence across it all. So to do that, you have to be able to accommodate the execution level of traditional waterfall projects and agile projects, or some mix of variation thereof. So instead of having separate tools and separate portfolios or silos of information, the goal in this new adaptive project management world is to have portfolios that are holistic, that have all your programs, all your different teams, all your different agile and traditional projects, all funneling into portfolio visibility that meets the needs of not only the teams that are working at the execution level, but feed up through the various layers of management and also meet the needs of leadership as they want to know how their investments are tracking across the organization, regardless of what the type of work is. So what we're doing in the Microsoft Cloud today is we're offering our capabilities in one plan to supplement things you may be already doing today. This is the ability to do portfolio management, financial and capacity planning, regardless of what planning execution tools are being used. This can be things like Office 365 Planner and these Microsoft examples, Microsoft Project Online or their new project for the web, Azure DevOps or Visual Studio, as it was formerly known as, for more agile things, as well as even non-Microsoft capabilities that people are using out there for things like Jira and other things like that. The idea is allowing the tools to connect to strategy and execution at the portfolio level, down from the work management level, so that we can actually have all things feeding into the process. So if we think about that, what are we adding to the mix? What are we bringing to the table? Well, portfolio planning, so that we can do planning and execution and also modeling in what-if scenarios. There's resource capacity planning, so we can see what it's going to take from a demand perspective and align that with our ability to deliver projects based upon the constraints we have on the resources we have available. And the ability to do financial planning, to understand what it's going to take from a original budget, maybe revised forecasts, actuals, et cetera, and be able to have those done on a project or a program level basis at the portfolio level, so that we can then decide what we want to execute on at those different levels of work, and then choose the work management tools or the execution tools that we would like to use, whether it be different kinds of project management, planner, other non-Microsoft tools that are getting popular out there, or even different agile planning tools that are available to us today. So today, we're going to give you a demonstration on how this stuff all comes together. We're going to show you how one plan brings more strategic value from the initial planning of those types of things. We're going to talk about how we can actually use different planning tools to feed into that portfolio, and you can choose on a project-by-project basis what those would be. Portfolio prioritization, looking at it from a more agile or Kanban mode at a portfolio level and using more lean capabilities or using scaled agile capabilities. Being able to do road mapping, which is very popular and in demand and needed by product organizations. And even be able to do a portfolio tree hierarchy so we can understand how things align with different strategies and other hierarchies and value streams within our organizations. And tying into that is the resource capacity component, easy ways to plan in terms of FTEs or teams or whatever increments that you plan at, and easily understand what the demand for those resources are across all the things we're considering doing. And then also prioritizing our resources in the context of our portfolio. And the financial planning, which we'll talk about, how we do detailed financial tracking on a time phase basis, whether it be labor, materials, supplies, travel, whatever types of categories you might want to use, and then put that in the context of portfolio reconciliation as well. And then the work planning, as we talked about, you can use the tools that make the most sense for you. Team collaboration, we can surface all this information. There's a growing adoption of Microsoft Teams as a collaborative platform because people are in that Office 365 environment and provides an ever-growing set of capabilities in there. We can actually surface this information via Teams so that people that are in there can actually access these capabilities along with other project and resource management capabilities right within Teams. And then there's native feeds out to Power BI. So people in the Microsoft platform that are using Power BI for other purposes, you get the reporting as a natural output of the process. So you don't have to construct these reports as projects in and of themselves, each and every reporting cycle. And a lot of the ways we make this happen is this platform has a bunch of out-of-the-box connectors, whether it be software development tools, like the Agile tools we talked about earlier on, whether it be the work management tools and scheduling tools, whether it be your financial systems, your ideation systems that you might be using, and even professional services and sales systems for intake on opportunities, as well as IT service management tools as well. So the idea is that the possibilities are very broad as how we can bring things together to give you a very cohesive solution and provide the visibility that leadership is looking for. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matthew Willey, and he'll give you a demonstration of how this stuff works in action.
Thanks, Jim. All right, I'm logged in here into Power Apps, and you can see I'm on a dashboard page here that's tying into some of the different information. We'll get into reports a little bit later. Let's go ahead and jump on in and go through the process. So for the very first part of the process, you can put in different requests into the system, requests for new projects, for new features, for software, whatever they may be. And as you're putting in those different requests, we can start to generate a prioritization score based off of some of the information that you put in. So we're kind of helping to funnel things down of all of these different requests that may come in, filter those into things that may be more meaningful, things you may be looking to do in the near term. And then when you're ready, you can promote those to the next state by utilizing Flow to promote that into be an actual project within the system. So switching over into my project list, you'll see I have a bunch of different projects here. You can see I have some health indicators around overall health, schedule, financials, issues, effort, so on and so forth. And this is really my one place to go to see all of my different projects, the status of those projects, and I can drill in and get more details as need be. I'm going to go into one of my projects right now, which is my social networking integration project. This project's still very early on in the process. It's in the create stage. But notice we can go through and we can set up a business process flow where you're going to go through multiple different stages to go through the life cycle of this project. As we go from each stage to the next, we can send out notifications, require approvals, and or put other business processes in place, like require certain information to be filled out before we can move on. This really helps us automate that process and put some governance around it so that projects are going through the right steps before they start actually being executed on and eventually close out. On my project form here, you'll see that I can align these projects to things like portfolios, programs, and products. So we can roll those up and group and filter and do, kind of groupings of related projects that make sense. And we'll see that as we go through the system more in different reports and such as well. We can specify who's the owner, who's the manager, and really just fill out all the basic information needed to kick off a new project. We can also start to build out our business case around this project. We can put in a description, put a little bit more information in here around why should we do it, what's the value, and we can start doing some prioritization. We can do a more traditional prioritization where we look at how strategically aligned is this project to our business objectives. Is it going to help us improve employee retention? How much is it going to help us lower our costs? And what's the risk? And all of those answers together will then generate a prioritization score here. At the same time, we can do more of a lean prioritization or a more agile prioritization. In this case, we're using WSJF, weighted shortest job first. Again, you're putting in a bunch of different values here, like business value, risk reduction, time criticality, swag, and it's going to calculate out things like your cost of delay, as well as your WSJF in points. In both cases, the higher number, the better, and therefore we should prioritize that higher. And if there's another prioritization method you would rather use, this system is very configurable, so we can set those up, the right fields and calculations and such to prioritize the way that you might want, but you have multiple options here out of the box. Once you've filled in some of this basic information, one of the next things you might want to do is go and build a high-level resource plan. At this point, I don't need to go and build a very detailed plan of, here are all the tasks or backlog items, but I need to just better understand, is it going to take 5 people, 10 people? Is it going to take them 3 months, 6 months? And what types of people are we going to need? Do I need developers? Do I need business analysts? So on and so forth. And this allows you to do just that, build that high-level top-down resource plan. You'll see here right now I'm planning with generic resources, meaning I don't quite know who I'm going to use yet. I just know I need a business analyst and a developer for these periods of time. And I can plan in hours, percents, or FTEs. If you do already know who you might want to work on your particular project, you can come in and use the find option in here, and I can come find resources by role or by department or whatever it might be, skill set, so on and so forth, location, find the actual named people that you are interested in using, and then add those people into your resource plan as well. Especially if you're working with smaller resource pools, you may have a better idea of who you might want for this particular project. And as you're doing that, you get visibility into their availability, so you're not scheduling people onto a project that are already way overbooked. Once you've built out your high-level resource plan, the next thing you may want to do is go and build out your budget. So in here, I can then start to come up with, how much is this going to cost us, and what types of costs is it going to take? The first piece of that is my labor costs. And instead of having to go and manually calculate out those labor costs, I can simply hit import, and it will build out all of these labor costs for me based off of that resource plan that I just built. So it essentially takes that resource plan, multiplies it by the blended rates that you had set up previously, and it will then give you your cost estimates for labor here. After that, you can then key in other costs, things like travel and expenses, contract, software, other. And so this is all very much an online editable Excel spreadsheet type of a feel where you can key those things in. That all rolls up and then gives me my total budget here, which is $620,000. So now we have a better idea of the resources it's going to take, the cost it's going to take, or the budget it's going to take, as well as the business case and some prioritization information to tell us what's the value of this project. Later on in the financial planner here, you can also do things like compare this budget to your forecast or to your actuals, and you get a heat map here that shows you very clearly, where your variances are. If I want to do so, I can also show those variances, so it shows me how far I am off from what I had initially planned. And you can use this to keep track of your project costs as you're going through it, as well as reports that we'll see later. Once you have all that information put in, now we can start to do some portfolio analysis, right? We have all of these projects that are coming in, all these different, buckets of work, and we have to figure out what we can do and when we can do it within our constraints. We only have so many dollars, and we only have so much resources. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip into my prioritization view, and the very first step of this is we need to come up with a priority of which projects are our highest priorities and which projects are our lowest priority. But we want to do so based off of the information that we've been keying in, the objective information within this, right? I'm going to flip this into full screen mode here so you can see this a little bit better. And so basically these are all of our different projects. And when I put this into prioritization mode here, I can look at all of the information we've been putting in, like those prioritization scores, our budget, our benefits, and any other metrics we might want to throw in here, like ROIs or NPVs, IRRs, right? And so as we're looking at all of these information that we've captured of the value of these projects, we can then come in here and simply just drag and drop to reorganize these. Bump this one up a little bit because it has a higher prioritization score. Hey, why is this one way up here? It has a low prioritization score. Maybe I need to move that down a little bit. And essentially then we'll get a stacked rank order of our projects, highest priority at the top, lowest priority down at the bottom. That's all great. We have a priority on these things now, but now we have to figure out how they're going to fit into our timeline, how we can actually get these done within our budgets and with the resources that we have. And so the next aspect that I can overlay over this is my Gantt, or my timeline view. And I can flip this to look at it by quarter. And you can see here is how all of these projects are currently laid out today if we don't make any changes, if we don't move anything around. you can see that we can create dependencies between these different projects or buckets of work as well. By the way, some of these projects later on might be managed in an agile way, and we'll see how that works, as well as they could be managed in a waterfall way or hybrid, a little bit mixture of both. At this point, it doesn't matter. We would have done all of these same steps that we've done the same to get a top-down portfolio plan. Later on, how we execute will be up to us, whatever makes most sense for that particular type of project. So I'll overlay on top of this now my financials, those budgets that we had built. And we only have so much money for the fiscal year of 2020, so we can't necessarily do all of these things or do all of them when people are asking for them to be done. And so what I'm now showing is this target here is my total budget that I have by month in this case, but we could do it if we wanted to by quarter or by year, depending on what level of detail that we want. But you can see I'm going to have some problems from July to October, and we need to resolve those problems. The way to do that is now we can do some what-if planning here. We can come down to some of these lower priority projects and say, what if we don't do these? How is that going to affect my budget? By simply unchecking them, it will then recalculate and show me, okay, if I don't do those projects, here's how that's going to affect my budget. And you can start to check, check, check until that all goes green. Now, if we have to do these projects, it's not a matter of we're going to or not. If it's more a matter of when can we do them, then you can what if scenario that in here as well. I can simply come into any one of these projects and drag and drop it, say out another quarter, 2 quarters, and then see how that's going to affect my budget that way as well. So you have the option of either or and or a combination of, and then once you get it the way you want it, you can save that as a scenario and come back to it later. Scenario A, maybe we're not going to do or put on hold some of these projects that are lower priority. Scenario B, we're just going to push them out maybe a few quarters to make sure that we can stay within our constraints. At the same time, we can also do this from a resourcing perspective, not just from a cost perspective. So maybe we have the budget, that's all approved and fine, but we have a limited set of resources that we have to use to get all this work done. You can see here where there's issues, and again, I can check or uncheck as well as drag and drop to move things around so that I can resolve some of these resource conflicts up front. Now, this is all top-down, high-level planning, but at least that way, once you get into the project, you don't find out that you have no resources available because we have too many things going on. We go into it with a plan instead, based off of priorities as well, aligned to our particular business. Within the portfolio analysis module, there's also a high-level Kanban board. So this isn't looking at tasks and bugs and things. This is looking at those high-level projects and or epics or products or features or whatever you might be moving through your portfolio. You can see visually then what state each of these are and some useful information around those. You can also generate a roadmap or a timeline type of view that can be used to very easily convey when things are going to be done to your customers, to management, to stakeholders, whoever it might be. It gives you a nice clean view of where these things are currently lined up and the progress on those. And the color here shows if they're on track, off track, or at risk based off of the different color coding there. You can then print that out, as well as there's also reports that you can utilize if you choose to do so to communicate that out to stakeholders. So now that we've done our portfolio analysis and we've laid out our timeline and visually looked at things, we can now start to get more into the execution side of things, meaning our project's been selected, we've been allocated some resources to do this particular project and some budget. Now we're ready to go do our detailed planning at this point. So I'm going to pop back into my social networking integration project here, and I'm going to go into the tasks tab. And so if this project lends itself better to being managed in a more waterfall type of a way, then we have multiple options for doing that within here as well. In this case, you'll see this particular environment allows us to use either Project for the Web, which is the new online capability for building out project schedules through the web. And there is a Agile Kanban view in there as well, so you can visually see the status of those. You can also use the Office 365 Planner if you're just looking for kind of a lightweight task list and you want to manage it that way. That's an option. And if this is a much more big, robust project, we're building an airplane or whatever it might be, you may want or need to use Project Professional and all of its power and capabilities to go and build out your project schedule there. regardless of which tool you use to build out your project schedule, the result is the same. It all gets published into the system. It shows up in reports and such, and in portfolio views. And so you get the same result. It's just a matter of which tool makes the most sense for the type of project that you're looking for, right? That's on the waterfall side of things. On the Agile side of things, I can flip over into my backlog tab here, and you'll notice that this environment is connected up to both Jira and Azure DevOps. So if you're already using Jira and or Azure DevOps, and you want to manage your backlog of work over there and the execution of it, you still can. And then we'll let that work flow back on into here again, so it shows up in reports and portfolio views and so on and so forth back into into one system. That way we don't have things in different places and try to have to do manual reports and such to get everything all together, right? As all of that work is being, flowing in and being set up, team members can come into their My Work view here. They will get notifications when things are assigned to them, and they can see in one place all of the different work that's assigned to them, and they can update their status right from here. Simply just checking or unchecking and or updating things like % complete will automatically then send that back to the project manager or scrum master or whoever it is that might have assigned them that particular work. At the same time, if you need to track actual hours onto this, do timesheets, then there's a timesheet capability in here as well. So all of that work that I've been assigned, whether it was Agile work, whether it was waterfall work, whatever it might have been, and from any of those different tools, can all be put into my timesheet here, and then I can track my time on that, save and submit at the end of the week, and have that roll back if needed as well. That time can then be utilized to generate actual labor costs and or just the actual hours that we've spent on this work based off of what was budgeted. As we're putting in all of these different status updates and such, you're going to want to get visibility into what's going on. How are we doing based off of what we plan to do, based off of what our goals are, so on and so forth. And so there's a full set of out-of-the-box reports that you can start from to get really great visibility into that. These reports are powered by Power BI. Power BI is one of Office 365 and the Power Platform's newer capabilities. It's a cloud reporting tool that allows you to do some really robust reports. And we have a whole bunch of out-of-the-box ones you can start from, as well as we can or you can build more reports based off of all this great data that we have here to show things in the way that you want. But you'll see we have reports that people are generally looking for. For example, this is a list of all of my different projects, the status of those projects, things like budget versus forecast versus actuals, and so on and so forth. If I'm more interested in financial information, then there's a full set of financial reports in here, including showing cumulative costs over time. How are we doing over time based off of what we planned? There's a full set of resource reports in here as well, so we can see who's working on what, who's over allocated, who's under allocated, and could use some more work so we can utilize them better. And all the way down into detailed work items like issues, risks, changes, so on and so forth, if you want to get down to that level of status and visibility into what's going on. So you have a full set of reports there. On the Agile side of things, we also have more traditional Agile looking types of reports that you can utilize to show things like user stories and points and defects and whatever it might be, burn-ups, burn-downs, velocity charts, so on and so forth, if you need to also generate Agile types of reports as well. Full set of reports here that you can use to see things in different ways. As Jim mentioned before, you can also utilize Microsoft Teams as a collaboration platform, but within Microsoft Teams, you'll see that those same capabilities that we've been looking at are actually available and workable right through here. These aren't just screenshots. This is a live working system that I can utilize right from within Teams. And if I'm utilizing other things like Power BI, and I want to also use the conversations and posts and files within here, I can do so all from one place to give kind of your people on your project teams one place to go to get access to all of the different information they might need and or be able to update status and so on and so forth right here through this particular environment within Teams. So that's kind of a nice way to tie everything together if you have people using that. So with that, you can see how you can manage your projects from start to finish, whether Agile or Waterfall or Hybrid, get visibility into everything that's going on and collaborate on top of that to make sure that the work is getting done on time, on budget, and so on and so forth. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for just a couple more closing notes, and then we'll let you guys go for the day.
Thanks, Matthew. All right. Let's talk about summarizing this up and talk about some potential next steps for you. So in summary, Matthew showed you the ability to be able to bring things together from one or more portfolios using different execution tools and be able to put all the different facets you might want, whether it be portfolio management top-down, whether it be the execution side with different tools and methodologies, and be able to bring in the resource and financial components into that as well, and be able to do it in a collaborative way in an organization. In summary, this whole approach brings a more modern user experience that's expected today by today's workforce. The Power Platform, in which he showed you the earlier stuff before he went into Teams and Power Apps, gives a way to put it in a context of a full navigatable solution that associates everything with each other. The Common Data Service from Microsoft that provides a common data store and a common repository for all this information, makes it accessible for reporting and other purposes. And then the One Plan things really provide pre-configured adaptive PPM solutions for the Power Platform, leveraging these capabilities that were demonstrated to you today. It also incorporates tools that are appropriate for the user role, maturity, and the type of work that's being done, supporting a variety of execution methodologies. And also by the fact that it has this flexibility, it can improve adoption by streamlining access, navigation, and giving users the user experience that they want and they desire, meaning that they're going to participate more fully and give you better collaboration and more complete and current information, ideally. We have customers that are doing this today with these technologies. It may be relatively new to see this for you guys today, but there's a number of customers that we have today that are using these new technologies. Kiewit Construction is one of them. They basically have Agile project and portfolio management in more adaptive mode, using the Power Platform by Microsoft and going from ideation and planning and prioritization all the way through an adaptive PPM solution that uses workflow and Power BI and all those types of things that you saw here today. People are executing on this today and executing successfully. If you have desires and needs in this area, you can actually realize those capabilities very quickly. Just a little bit about us. We do specialize in this. We have a particular specialization in project portfolio management discipline. We have multiple gold certifications from Microsoft in cloud productivity. And we are actually founded as a joint venture with Microsoft. And we were named their PPM Partner of the Year in 2019. So we have a lot of skills and capabilities and leverage a lot of experience with customers and best practices that we can bring to bear in your organizations as well. Special offer for you all, we can give you a free PPM workshop to review your current use of PPM tools, assess your current requirements and determine how you could actually make a move or migrate into this new adaptive PPM world. We can give you an idea what kind of roadmap it would take to do this and what type of costs and licensing might be available to or might be required to make that happen. We're happy to have that discussion and discovery with you to just give you an idea of what it might take to get you from current state to future state, or maybe what steps it might take to do that. Also, the adaptive PPM capability is available for you to download and trial on a limited basis from Microsoft's App Source. If you go over to App Source and look for One Plan for Adaptive Project Portfolio Management, you can actually request a trial, and we're happy to support you on that too if you want some assistance or guidance in getting the most effective use of that trial. So from a next steps perspective, please let us know if you'd like us to help you with a PPM roadmap workshop. Let us know if we can support you on a trial for any of these types of things. And if you're not quite that far yet and you saw this generalized demo today, we're happy to schedule a personalized one-on-one demo that really tracks to maybe some of your pain points, some of your priorities, and some of your requirements that might resonate a little bit better with you directly. We do webinars like this all the time. We have a whole library of on-demand webinars, and upcoming webinars are scheduled that you can register for at us.wickersoft.com/webinars. Or if you have some questions or want to talk to us directly, you can get us generally at contact@wickersoft.com, and I'm happy to field your request personally at jpatterson@wickersoft.com. So just let us know how we can help you, how we can assist you. We're here to assist you on whatever degree that you might want help, and we'd love to expose you more to what's here today, and we hope to engage with you in the future. So thank you everybody for your time, and have a great day.